Hey, good morning and welcome to this next episode of the Vision Alignment Show, the show where we all begin to understand how important it is to have our core beliefs, our core values aligned with our vision. So that is what we're doing today. We've got other great shows lined up for you for today, but before we go into that, I want to introduce our guest for today, all the way from San Francisco, Mr. Craig Adams. Hello, Craig. How are you?
Hi, Brian. Good morning. What a great introduction.
You like that?
I loved it.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being on. This is great.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, Craig, I want to ask you a question. What is your first recollection of knowing your vision?
Well, I think the very first one was my father was he's like a space engineer, right? And
Wow.
and he was working for Martin Marietta in Denver. I'm from Colorado, and so they have the take your child to work day. Remember that? And everyone takes their child to work day. Well, I think you live that, but in my experience, I get to go to the rocket propulsion lab there in Colorado, and I saw some things that were fascinating, but I also saw how these engineers really worked and what they really did. And I remember walking back home and saying, I'm not sure what my future vision is, but I definitely know what I don't want, right? And so it became, an entrepreneurial thing for me to really find what it was that I wanted and what was important to me, and being part of a corporate culture where you're working for somebody else, that was not in the plan. So that was my earliest vision, I would say.
Awesome. If you want to hear more, stay right there. And we're back. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Great answer. So before we go into this too far, I also want to ask for our audience to please put in the comments, put in hashtag live of where you're coming in from, because that will help us to understand where everybody is. And then also share this video out with as many people as you can think of, and share it on your timeline, share wherever you can. And then if you're listening to this on replay, put in a hashtag replay and help us to understand where we're coming in from. But no matter where, no matter when, put in your timeline a picture of you winking. And when you wink, yes, I know that sounds odd from a guy with a permanent wink, but when you wink, I want you to think about what makes you unique. So I know what makes me unique, and it's not my eye. What makes me unique is my positive personality, and I'm able to share my story with other people to have a lasting impact on their lives. So that's what makes me unique. What is it that makes you unique? Think about that and put that picture in your timeline, and then also put a hashtag of Brian with one eye, and a hashtag of Winking with Wagner. That will allow us to monitor the growth of that community, and also tag me on it. Tag Brian Wagner on it, and you'll be entered into a raffle to win a free copy of my book. And yes, Craig has one. A signed copy of my book. Thank you very much. That's awesome. So, that's great. And that's awesome. Thanks, Craig. So, tell me, Craig, a little bit about your story. And when I talk about when you talk about your story, I'm going to go away for just a little bit. So tell
Don't
me.
go away too long. It's a short story.
Okay.
All right. So I'm Craig Stewart Adams, and I grew up in Colorado. So I was actually born in Wisconsin. I've got Wisconsin roots and Wisconsin family, but my father was an aerospace engineer. And so in the early part of the aerospace program, while they're getting ready to send the man to the moon, I was traveling around the country and ended up in Colorado. And that's where I grew up. So I grew up in Colorado, went to the public schools there, had a great life. I lived in the suburban area of the greater Denver area, a little town called Littleton. Some of you may have heard of it. Littleton is a great town, and we lived near the County Line Road. So we were at the very far end of Denver, and it was a great time to grow up. Everyone was doing the things that you do back in the 70s, and we were into all the popular culture items and rock and roll and cars, and it was just a wonderful experience. So I went through that process, ended up attending the Metropolitan State University in Denver, where I was studying chemistry. And I wasn't a good chemist. I actually enjoyed chemistry, but I tended to have a problem with catching things on fire and exploding things, which in the world of chemistry, that's not a good thing. So I changed careers, went up to the University of Colorado in Boulder, and I received a degree in literature. And then I went into business. And I've been working steadily in the business sector for the last 30 years, primarily in real estate. So that's been my career trajectory. And today, I'm still a licensed real estate broker. I'm very active in the real estate community here. But I also have the privilege of serving on the board of the Golden Gate Breakfast Club. And I'm the acting president of the Golden Gate Breakfast Club for 2020 and 2021. It's normally a one-year position, but with COVID, we wanted to have the continuity of the leadership going through a whole year in addition to a second year so that we can make a transition. So that is a nice segue back to Brian, because we're in the process of recreating our vision for the club. And Brian?
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Craig.
Thank you.
Craig, you went from Littleton, Colorado to San Francisco. How did you do that?
That's a long story. I went out for business originally. I was working for the Coors Classic, a bicycle race at the time, and I was one of their media relations individuals. And so we went out all over the country, ended up in San Francisco, and I loved San Francisco. I thought, this is my town, So I went back to Boulder, where I was living at the time. And I just couldn't get it out of my mind. And so I finally just packed up the car and drove out to San Francisco, not knowing anybody, and just started my life in San Francisco and made things work. So
I read in your story, your bio, about how you were a server for a while, a server at restaurants.
Yeah. At that time, I didn't have much money when I first moved out. So I just needed to take whatever jobs were available. And I worked in restaurants and bars. I also worked on a 200-foot yacht for the Hornblower Company. And that was a great experience. We had four floors. There were 3 dance floors. There were 5 bars, and it was a 200-foot motor yacht. And we'd go out through the San Francisco Bay, and it was so much fun. It was so much fun. I did that for a couple of years as I was getting established, and at the same time, I had taken on a corporate job, and I was working in the corporate world and getting my real estate license for California updated at that time, and then I went into real estate.
And you were a hornblower?
It's Horatio Hornblower. If you recall the stories, he's a figure from literature, but Hornblower is the name of the yachts, and it's a company that services San Francisco. They also have a company in Long Beach and in Hawaii.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yep, thank you.
We want to make sure we recognize a few people here that have joined us. There's Mark Husick. Good morning, Mark. Coming in from Ohio. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And a friend of we both know, Randall. From Ohio, just down the street from me. What a good guy. Love that. So to the listeners today, can you believe the Golden Gate Breakfast Club has 2 members From Hilliard. Yes. Believe it or not, that's true. Well, that's awesome. So tell me, what's your vision going forward?
Well, as far as the club is concerned, our vision has changed. We were a club that met every week in San Francisco at the Marines Memorial Hotel, and we had a beautiful static hotel, incredible interior, and we would have a podium and do the things that you've seen before in your when you visited, Brian. And so the speaker would stand at the podium, give a presentation. We had all the interaction, we had food, and that was how we conducted the business. But then last year, about a year ago, it was exactly a year ago. I was looking on my calendar, and I remember walking into the hotel because we had canceled the Golden Gate Breakfast Club because of the COVID scare. And we thought it was just going to be a few weeks.
Right.
And so I decided to go to the hotel just in case any of our members did not see the notices that went out. And lo and behold, we had Mike Kress, who's an investment advisor, and also John Stewart, who's a circuit judge, and they were both there. So we went up to the dining room and had breakfast. And wow, I had no idea at the time. We thought, oh, this is going to blow over and we'll be back in our space in the next couple of weeks. And that was a year ago. So a lot has changed in the last year. And certainly the vision for our mission has changed. We originally thought, well, this is how things are done. And for the longest time, we thought we would just revert back to our regular programming as soon as we had an opportunity. But it became really clear that we have to, our original identity was we are a club that had to go virtual because of COVID. And now we're transitioning back, but really our shift is we're a virtual club that's going back live. And so it's an interesting transition. It's an interesting mentality, but we also, and you're part of this too, we went from being a local little San Francisco group to outreaching. Now we have members all over the United States. And we also have European members. So now the Golden Gate Breakfast Club is an international club. And I feel really good about that happening under my time as president.
Isn't that incredible? So so there's so much to learn from all the people there. There's just been a great group of people. But I wonder, and so I want to encourage people that are listening online. If you're part of this stream we're doing here today and listening into Craig, join the. Actually, if you want to become a guest of the Golden Gate Breakfast Club, reach out to me. And I will bring you in as a guest, and then because I'm a member, and then we can see if you like it, see if it makes sense for you, and we'll go from there. We're still taking members, aren't we, Craig?
Absolutely. Talk to our treasurer. He'll take your he'll ask for your check. But it's a wonderful club. It's unique, and it serves a real special niche that most clubs do not approach today. And it's not there's networking that happens, but it's really not the focus of the group. In fact, we discourage business networking. We want people to be themselves, be authentic, and enjoy each other. And those are real hard commodities to find right now. Yeah.
No, I agree. So tell me about your personal vision or your company vision.
Well, about 2005, I went out on my own. I started my own real estate firm. So I got my broker's license, and my vision was to be self-employed, have a full company and work on my own. And that was rather successful for the number of years, but it's hard to be a solo practitioner in anything. And you need to bring in specialists. I had a business coach, and it was a great business, but I get to a certain point where I really wanted to be around other top agents. So I went over to Coldwell Banker. I worked with Coldwell Banker for 7 years. And then a year ago, I went over to a small boutique firm. So I have all the benefit of my autonomy. At the same time, I have the support of a large organization, and it's a very boutique type firm. So my career it's been great. Real estate is like the best career ever.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So what type of houses do you deal with? Now, I know you do some rentals and you do some purchases, right? But I mean, is there a specific type of house?
No, because I represent buyers a lot, and so my buyers, they come in all different, they have different needs. Sometimes they want something smaller. Sometimes they want a condo. Sometimes a single family home works for them. If they're looking for an investment property, we target those. And so the price point it's all over the place. My average price point right now is about $1.2 million. But I've got a young man right now looking at his first home, and we're looking at a $400,000 condominium.
Yeah.
And then we have properties that sell for much higher than that.
Where would you be able to get a $400,000 condominium in San Francisco? To me, that seems hard to imagine, because those types of houses, lower cost houses, would be here in Ohio.
Right.
So yeah,
it's not a real fair comparison.
Yeah,
because you have a different product line there, and you have more land. In San Francisco, we have a very limited supply and demand because of the geography. But there are really good deals out there, but you have to be willing to look for them, and they're smaller. You're not, for $400,000, you're not going to get a huge place. You'll get a smaller place, and there'll be an HOA fee, and they're out there.
How many square feet?
390 square feet, about the size of a 2-car garage.
Wow.
600, about six. That's about $650 a square foot.
Yeah, that's a little different than Ohio.
Yeah, I think your house, if you were like Star Trek and beamed it up from Ohio and put it in San Francisco, your house would probably be worth about, I'd think around 1.8 million. Is that my guess?
Wow, that's amazing. So tell me, Craig, I mean, that's your vision of how things are going. So what are some of the challenges you're still trying to overcome?
Oh, that's a great question. Because everybody has challenges, and you exemplify that beautifully, and I love how you've leveraged your challenge with, your blinking and made it into a whole business model. I'm inspired by that. I really think it's well thought out. And so you've done something which I like to look at myself, because you focused on not so much, your challenges, but you're playing to your strengths, right? You're playing to your strengths as a Wagner, with that smile and that personality. And I've tried to do that too. For the longest time, I was really had a real tough time trying to come to grips with who I was, because, I have a very philosophical way of looking at things, and I don't necessarily look at things like most people do in the mainstream. And so there were some problems with that, but then I realized that's actually a strength. And then once I realized it was a strength and a unique quality that I had, I could relax a little bit and realize that this is just, this is something that I can play to, because it's a strength of mine. I can actually see into the future from just a projection standpoint. I've just had a lot of experience over the years, and in real estate, it's a great example that I can advise my clients, because I've been there, and I can see, look, don't do that, and this is why. And so it's given me a chance to look at things really long term and have that perspective. And so playing to your strengths, I think, is really, really important. And other challenges, public speaking was a challenge for me. I did take a Toastmasters class early in my career, and that was a great experience. But I haven't had too many opportunities to speak publicly. And when I was asked to be the president of the Golden Gate Breakfast Club, I wasn't exactly going for that originally. In fact, when I joined the Golden Gate Breakfast Club, I was just a regular member like everybody else. But I just realized there's so much value there that I was going to get more value if I participated in the club. And so I looked for ways I could do that. When I first joined the club, I was giving name tags out. I got to know the different members. They love to tease you, and so they took full advantage of the new guy, and they teased me a lot, and I teased them back, and we had a great camaraderie. And I realized this is a really special club because of that. And then I was asked to get involved with the speakers committee, which would be what you're doing and interviewing me and other people. You invite good speakers to come, and I learned a lot about that and did a few other things. I was asked to be on the board. And so over time, the board, I don't know if they thought I was a sucker or what, but they decided they were going to make me president. And I started out 2020 as the president. And what a ride. What a great ride. And so, and then of course the challenge with being a president in 2020 is how do you keep a club alive under a COVID issue? So I was determined not to let the club die under my time.
Yeah. So how did the club do from a member standpoint?
Well, when we started 2020, we were in good shape. The membership had been declining, but that's just a natural thing that was happening with many clubs. People were getting distracted. The clubs were losing the people are busy. People are really busy. Clubs take time, and a lot of people wanted to focus on other areas of their life. So our club was having the same challenges a lot of clubs were having, and a lot of clubs were they're having difficulty staying in business because the membership, the people would not be rejoining. We had better luck than most, but at the same time, we were concerned about that starting 2020. And then, of course, once we had to cancel the first couple of weeks following the COVID alerts, there was some real concern. I was concerned that people would lose the habit of waking up every Wednesday and showing up at the same place, because habit is so important. And I talked to the board about it. We had some meetings and we felt that Zoom was the preferred method that used. So we decided to move over to that format. And our first Zoom meeting was interesting. None of us knew what was going on. Yeah. None of us knew how to proceed, but we just did the best we could. And it was more of a test than anything else, but we realized, hey, this is something we can really work with. And luckily for us, we have some great members that were able to help us out. Some real pros.
Oh yeah. I mean, when I get on the Zoom call, there's almost 100 people on the call, and they're all talking to each other and they're having a good time. It's like, I don't know. It's going back home for me, because I can talking with my dad and a lot of people with some more seniority than me, but then there's also people just like me. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a real diverse group of people, and the demographics are all over the place. It's not like a mold. I think it's really more of a state of mind. If I could say it, the Golden Gate Breakfast Club is a state of mind. And if you've got the right state of mind, you're welcome. And that's what it boils down to. And from my perspective, in a leadership role, I take it really seriously. I map out what we're doing. I map out the speaker. I try to have a real stringent set of criteria that we can go with, and then built in some flexibility so that I can adapt as we need to. But I get so much great advice after many of the meetings. Patricia Fripp. So Patricia Fripp is part of our group, and she's been great in giving me advice and helping me to hone my skills as the president. Amongst other people, there's you watching the other speakers. It's like getting a PhD your first year.
You're talking a lot about advice. What's the best advice you've ever gotten? And it doesn't have to be related to the Golden Gate Breakfast Club. It could be anything.
When I first took the real estate business seriously and really bit the bullet and quit my corporate job and jumped into it with both feet, I had a broker from the East Coast, Tom Finnegan. The guy was amazing, and he just had a great way of talking to people. Everyone liked and respected Tom, and I realized from Tom that he was a wonderful man to emulate, and he gave me some advice early on that I've always adhered to. One was that at the time, I really didn't have many resources. I had taken all my savings from my corporate job, put it in the bank, so I had about 4 months to live on, and I had to sink or swim within that 4 months. And so Tom said, Craig, look, what you have to do is realize three things. because you only have three things. You have your reputation, you have your word. So be a man of your word, and just make that a priority. He said the other thing you have is your credit. And you're in real estate, you need to have good credit because opportunities are going to come your way. So have good credit. Being a man of your word is going to help in that direction. And then the third item he said was, there's going to be challenges. You're going to fail. You're going to fall down. It's not personal. It happens to everybody. Be willing to fail, but also be willing and know that you need to get up as quickly as possible and bounce back up. So it's those three bits of advice I have used my whole career.
Be a man of your word. What was the second one?
Have good credit. Keep your credit high.
Have good credit. And what else?
The third would be get up quickly.
Okay. Get up quickly. Awesome. That's cool. Those are good words to live by. So what do you do daily to bring yourself clarity in what you do?
I have rituals.
Yeah?
I have to have systems in place. So I get up early. I like to have a nice cup of coffee early on, and just have some time just to not think about business. And I find mornings are great for that for me. And in the evening before I go to bed, I always like reading. I don't have any electronic devices in my bedroom. Don't even have a TV in my bedroom. I don't want any of that. I just like to have time to just enjoy reading, and not even necessarily business. In fact, I try not to read business books at night. I like reading poetry. I like reading, and I read poetry to my wife. So that's a lot of fun. And I read other things. I was reading Mark Twain last night. I like Mark Twain. He's funny. Yeah.
What are you reading about Mark Twain?
I'm reading Innocents Abroad, and Mark Twain is a great case study because he started a trip abroad for public speaking in 1895. And at the time he was $100,000 in debt. And he also had
1895, he was $100,000 in debt.
That would be millions and millions of dollars.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So Mark Twain, well, what's interesting is, and this is a great, something a lot of people don't know, Mark Twain could have just run from his creditors. He could have just said, the heck with that, and I'll claim bankruptcy, and that's it. He didn't do that. He actually was a man of his word, and he felt that it was important for him to have his integrity and look at himself in the mirror, that he needed to repay the creditors. So he went on this speaking tour, $100,000 in debt, which was a huge amount of money at the time. He also had a chronic skin disease at the time that no one knew about, but he had that going on. And so he went on the circuit, went to Hawaii, was gone for 3 or 4 years. And he came back, paid off all his creditors. He had $107,000 in the bank when he returned, and his everything was paid off, and that was how he ended his tour. But it's a story about his tour and about the places he went and the things he saw and the people he met.
What was the name of the book again?
Innocents Abroad.
Innocents Abroad. I get so many great book ideas. My wife looks at me, she's like, how many books do you need?
That's a trick question. I love books. I have many books.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you for joining me today. I mean, I can't believe we're already almost at the end of our time. Holy cow. How does that happen?
I don't know. It's just, time goes fast when you're having a great conversation.
Wow. So I want to ask you one last question before we go. And probably two other questions. So what's the next level of success look like for you?
That's a great question. I'm at a point in my life where I'm redefining that right now. And the Golden Gate Breakfast Club has been a big part of that. I've had an opportunity to be around people like you, with Patricia, a lot of the National Speakers Association people, great writers, great authors. And so I think the future is going to be, there's a life, there's what you do professionally. Like I'm a real estate broker professionally. I've never defined myself by what I do in my professional activities. It's something I do. It's not necessarily who I am. But what do you want to do moving forward? So I'm working on a book right now that's not going to be a coaching book. I'm actually going to be doing something with literature. But
nice.
Yeah. So beyond that, that's a great question. We'll have to cover that in my next interview. I'll probably have better clarity at that point.
Yeah, we're going to have you back on. That's good. So, real quick, then, what would you say, or who helps you to see your blind spots?
Oh, Myra.
Yeah.
Myra, my wife, Myra. She's great. She keeps me lined up. She's got such a nice personality.
Yeah, that's awesome. And again, thank you so much. Oh, wow. This is great. We will definitely plan on having you back and talking more about vision alignment and see where the conversation takes us. But I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Will you hang out for a little bit after this call, and I will see you in the green room?
All right. Sounds great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Wow. What a great show. Craig Adams is phenomenal. So he is so well spoken, so understated. It's just phenomenal to have somebody like that to come on this show and to tell us more about their vision and to talk about what goes into that. So I can't thank him enough for being on. But also, I want to make sure that you know that at 11:30 today we have Greg Cini coming on. So Greg Cini is a guy that owns a facility here in Columbus, and he is in the facility is dedicated to Alzheimer's and dementia patients. So he'll be talking about the disability, but he'll also be talking about the caregivers that go into those disabilities as well. So just looking forward to having him on. And then next week, we have a great week coming up. So I'm looking forward to that. I'll be speaking on Monday, but then we also have on Tuesday, it's going to be Marilyn Sherman. Oh my gosh, Marilyn Sherman from NSA. She is phenomenal. She'll be a great speaker. So I'm looking forward to that. And then we have Thursday, we have Gio Rivera. Oh my. Look him up if you want to know more about him. So that's going to be great. I'm looking forward to all those. I appreciate you all. But I just want to make sure that no matter what, you keep one eye on the road. Thanks.